intro and we'll just chat.
Okay.
Hello everyone, this is the Philosopher's Poet. I'm here with Anne Athena. Always in my head, always.
Anne Athena,
yeah. She is an artist, sculptist, I would say poet as well, and I would say spiritualist in some sense for your work. But I'll let you speak.
Well, what are we going to speak about?
Give us a brief intro to yourself, and then we're going to talk about your purpose and how you found it.
Sure. Well, I will try and make it short, although it's very hard because I did have a very eventful life. But I was always creative ever since as I can remember, and I was always fascinated by the universe, what's out there. I remember kind of walking in the dark in the fields where I grew up, because there was a lot of fields and a lot of stars because there was not a lot of light. Kind of wondering to myself, how did I end up here and what's going on, So I always had that kind of mind. And I guess I started kind of all of these thoughts that are more or less unconscious when you're a child. I started drawing them into my little worlds. I used to draw these little worlds with, it would be detail upon detail upon detail. So, you could look at them for very long and still find little creatures and stuff. So that's kind of how that started. And then I started primary school, and I went to a school where my dad was the principal and my mum was a teacher there. So it was expected of me to be like kind of the poster child, which I was nowhere near. I couldn't sit still, I couldn't, I was daydreaming, I was just drawing, to my parents' big frustration. So school was not very nice for me. You're gonna have to edit this because I have to sneeze.
It's alright. Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh god. Didn't even come out.
That's alright.
Okay, back to school. Yeah, so school was not a very nice place for me. And I spent a lot of the time sitting on the hallway outside of the classroom, and I also spent a lot of the time climbing trees and sitting there on my own, kind of again just wondering what was this place that I had kind of come to. That's how I remember it.
Okay.
I remember myself thinking that I wasn't really, I was here and I was kind of part of it, but at the same time I wasn't, it was a weird feeling. And when I was about 12, my kid sister, she was 5, she got diagnosed with leukemia. Yeah. And whatever I had left of relationships with my parents, which was already quite difficult because of the school situation, because of other things going on behind closed doors and stuff, I kind of lost them, So at the age of 12, I was more or less like just kind of an orphan child. They spent most of their time at the hospital with her, and I was left behind. So I don't know how much detail I should go into.
Whatever you're comfortable with. That's okay. That's fine if you don't want to go any further.
You can look at it and you can see if you want to keep it or not. But it's kind of a big part of my story that I found drugs and alcohol. At the age of 12, 13. And I found the wrong crowd. And I remember just kind of feeling like the first time I kind of had a line of coke that I was saved or whatever, some kind of relief from the pain for the first time in years. And sadly, that's how like my addiction started. But it kind of only, I was very young obviously, but it lasted from I was about that age to I was about 23, 24. And since then I have been completely clean. And part of that is what I would call like a spiritual awakening that happened through different people and different things.
So I would say we all deal with trauma in different ways. So obviously in an effort to feel like you have to fit in and the expectations of your parents, and then obviously your sister was ill, so obviously naturally your parents were investing more time into your sister's well-being. I guess the other side of it though is it's not just about physical presence, it's emotional presence as well.
Yeah, there was none of that.
Yeah. So,
none of that.
And when you were talking about obviously your first line of coke, like you were saying salvation, I mean, you know, obviously the viewers are privy to this, but I was talking to you before this about like kind of me going from like very like strict conservative religion to sort of being more of a free thinker.
Yeah.
And I guess that high is similar in some respects and not in others to the idea of being saved.
Exactly.
Like salvation through another man's power. An external force.
Something external.
Yeah.
And when you're 12, 13 and you put cocaine into your system, you don't know what's happening to you. You just know the pain went away. You know, you felt something other than pain. And you just want to do it again. You know, you have no idea what it's like. It's almost like this parody of selling your soul to the devil. You know?
I mean, that's a 12 thing. You can imagine that the power is really sort of palpable. Like, you don't necessarily understand your own resources to actually address it or combat it. I mean, I don't mean like fight it in a very resistant way, but to understand it and know the root of it. So that must have been really challenging. I can imagine, I can't imagine like the closest I can think to that in my own life, which isn't anywhere near, is when you're like 12 or 13 as a young man and you watch your first porn or something. It can become quite let's say a taste like that. Because your hormones.
You don't know what's happening to you. You just get the fix. You know, and I think that was exactly what it was for me. I didn't understand why I was in deep pain. I didn't understand. I mean, like I said, my relationship with my parents was. I understand what it was today, but I didn't back then. You know, it was very difficult even before my sister was ill, and there was several reasons for that. But all I knew is that I was carrying this pain and there was a solution. And I didn't even know it was drugs. I didn't know that it was called drugs. There was somebody who was snorting this white powder into their nose, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, do you want to try? Yeah, let me try.
And in the end,
I didn't even know what it was. So that was but like maybe bringing it back to who I am today, that then started like a long battle of like fighting addictions and understanding what addiction is, and then the understanding that all addiction leads to pain. You know, it's an attempt to go away from pain, but it will only it's like boarding a train, and it will only just go in a circle and take you back to the starting point. And whatever fun journey you thought you had on the train, it will just take you right back to where you started. And the concept of, in like 12-step programs, there's something called like the God-shaped hole. And it's not to be understood in kind of a religious sense, but it just means that whatever hole it is you have inside that you're trying to fill with whatever it is, shopping, alcohol, drugs, sex, porn, whatever, there is only one thing that can ever fill that void, and it's none of this world. It cannot be of the physical world. It cannot be of something that you desire. It has to be something that is greater than yourself. And that is true. And that's how I'm clean.
It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
When you say something larger than yourself, do you also see yourself as larger than yourself in the sense of your understanding of who you are?
Yeah. So that God-shaped hole, I mean, some people prefer to kind of believe in a religious God because it's maybe easier for them or it makes sense to them. But for me, that never really worked because I couldn't accept that there was some kind of right way to be.
Yeah.
So I started to understand that actually this hole, the God-shaped hole, was my essence. You know, at some point I lost connection to my essence, and my essence is part of nature, and nature is part of the universe, and the universe is part of the cosmos, whatever. So I am what I'm seeking. So I can only ever do this, not this, just this. There's Eckhart Tolle. Do you know Eckhart Tolle?
Yeah.
Who wrote The Power of Now. He says that it's presence, you know, it's pure presence. And I believe he's right.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Yeah.
This idea of addiction, because we're living in a physical world, we very easily associate it with the obvious things.
Yeah.
So you said drugs, some people say alcohol.
Yeah.
But actually, I think we live in states of addiction throughout our lives. It just manifests in different ways.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking drugs or having sex, maybe your addiction is a particular behavior.
Yeah.
So it might not have all the sort of bells and whistles and what people will quite easily label as an addiction, but it's an addiction nonetheless, and it causes emotional pain, if not physical pain. So either way, you know, I think we've got to redefine how we look at the idea of addiction and the idea of so-called selling one's soul, not in a religious sense, but giving your power over to something else because you don't think you have any power yourself. But then the thing about selling your soul is you can always think back.
Yeah, because it never left you. Yes, exactly. Addiction is like complex because it's only the symptom that you see. You don't see the cause, but the symptom you see. So people look at the symptom and they think, oh, but this is the problem. I mean, he's drinking too much. That's the problem. He has to stop drinking. But the problem is that if he stops drinking, the problem is still there. You just can't see it anymore. But the problem is still internally. So I think addiction is a natural state of the human condition. You know, you wanna leave yourself, you wanna run away from yourself, you wanna not be who you are or what you are or what you're feeling, and that is addiction. Essentially.
Even the idea of being healed is an addiction because it takes away your own agency and inner power to heal yourself. And I say this because when I think of, in a very mainstream sense, the spiritualist or the guru or the messiah, it's this idea of people seeking someone to give them all the answers in their life, to heal them, not knowing that even if that person had the power to heal you, you would just end up where you were again because you haven't done it yourself. You haven't actually. It's the same thing, dare I say, with religion in some sense, in the sense of being saved by something because you've appealed to something. You've been baptized in water and done a certain ceremony, that, and it can help, but it still takes you away from who you are.
Mm-hmm.
There are degrees to this, I guess, in terms of, things can be helpful, but at the same time, as individuals in our own journeys, it doesn't mean everyone has the same path or needs the same journey in order to heal.
No, definitely. And I don't think, to some extent, you can heal. I don't really believe in the concept, because there is nothing wrong with you. You don't need to change.
Is this about definitions? Because I agree that we don't need to change, but sometimes I guess I use healing in place of finding ourselves.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. I think what I obviously spend a lot of time thinking about this. I think I believe in this idea of being freed. So it's not about changing yourself or being better or healing. It's about freeing yourself. Your essence, becoming, taking things away that aren't you.
Yeah.
I think it's essentially the same thing you were saying.
I think it is the same thing. It's about knowing yourself.
Yeah.
In a lot of mystery religions and a lot of esoteric culture, they often talk about it as if we have sort of, I guess, 7 bodies, and the idea that up to the 4th body is ruled by they call it the desire mind.
Yeah.
But they also consider these things part of the self or constructs of the actual true self. And they kind of refer it to the triad, the will and the divine mind. And what it is in a way that makes sense, because we go through we create masks to deal with certain social situations, and sometimes we think we are the mask and we're not.
Yeah.
And so we actually don't know who we are, and so dissolving away these things are illusions.
Well, that's why it makes sense to call it an awakening, right?
Yeah.
Because really you wake up to who you are. And in terms of esotericism, I've studied esotericism since I was 18. That was kind of part of my awakening.
Yeah.
And I started studying all these things and ideas, Alice Bailey and Blavatsky and that kind of stuff. And there is this idea of the triad, the triad and the square.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
The 4. Yeah.
So the 4 is the personality.
Yeah.
The 3 is the spirit.
Yes.
And you are in a body that has a physical aspect, an emotional aspect, a mental aspect, and even an etheric aspect. But it's still not you.
No.
You are the life that lives in that vehicle. But I just think that to access that mentality, or no, I wouldn't even call it consciousness, and life.
Yeah.
It's all of this you have to completely disidentify. And I, to be honest, don't think a lot of people do that in their lifetime.
Yeah, because we probably get as far as the 4th state, that mind, the camel manus, that's what it's called, the desire mind.
Yeah.
It's hard, it's really hard to, but at the same time, I guess I wouldn't advocate for saying we need to leave the planet, and yes, the physical world that's a very extreme form of Gnosticism.
What I mean is, there's this saying, you need to be in the world but not of the world.
Yeah.
But you still need to be in the world,
yes,
because that's why you're here. There's a reason why you're here. You need to be embodied.
Yeah.
But you don't need to identify with it, because when you identify with it, well, that's when we see the world like this.
Well, yeah. And so tell me more about your awakening, because you started to touch it, you started talking about sort of research and
maybe I can tell you how it kind of happened, and then I can talk about what happened after. But how it happened, it happened because after I got clean, I met this woman who, her name is Liz. She had a little shop in the city center where I lived, where she was selling crystals and doing tarot readings, like the town witch kind of thing.
Okay.
And you know, she kind of took me in. I needed some guidance and I needed some care, you know. And I could come to her and I could kind of talk about like what I used to think about when I was a child sitting in the tree, because all of that was so far from me, you know. I kind of lost it. And I started talking to her about it again, and she was interested and asked me questions, and she did astrology as well, and I started being interested in that. And then one day she said to me, I can't remember why, but she said to me, "Oh, I'm worried about you." I was like, "Why?" "Yeah, I'm worried that you're never gonna feel anything again."
Yes. Yeah.
And my first reaction was I got frustrated, because why is this, you know, woman that kind of I really look up to and like it's really important to me now. I really wanted her to, you know, like me and not be worried about me. And she said, "Yeah, I'm very, very worried that you're not gonna feel anything again." And there's just this sentence just kept in my mind. What does she mean? What does she mean? And I remember having this weekend where I was kind of partying with some of my friends, and I remember being so frustrated that I almost relapsed.
Okay.
But I didn't. And I went home really late one night, and I was laying in my bed. And I was laying there, I was thinking about this sentence of what does she mean? What does she mean? And I feel things, come on, I feel things really deeply, you know, I have all these emotions, and what does she mean? And I was laying there looking at the ceiling. This is gonna sound like totally bonkers, but
Maybe
this
not.
this is what happened.
Yeah.
I see this light, and it's just like an orb,
Yeah.
very bright, and it just kind of goes like this on top of me, and then it just goes,
Okay.
and I'm like, ugh. And then I just start doing this, and I can suddenly feel my skin, like I never felt my skin before, and like, oh, that's what she means. And I realized I haven't been in my own body since the day I was around 14.
Okay.
But there was a New Year's Eve where my dad lost his shit on me and something really traumatic happened. Yeah. But that night, or part of my soul, left my body, because I remember the situation, and I remember inside of me, I left. I remember kind of being there in the situation, and in myself, in my mind, I was sitting at a lake with my sister, and the sun was shining, and that part of me didn't come back till that night.
Wow. Okay.
And I knew who I was. I knew what I was. And then a long period of time after that followed, where I had all kinds of experiences, like mostly in dreams, where I would have this kind of astral projection where you're awake but you're not awake, and I would kind of leave my body and I would go to the neighbor house, go through the wall, look at him sitting in his sofa and what he was watching on TV and stuff. And then that stopped slowly. And then it just kind of became an awareness that never left me, you know. it just kind of became part of my consciousness.
Yeah.
But it didn't mean that life was amazing and nothing was ever difficult
No.
and I didn't struggle. But that awareness never left.
I think a lot of people, when they think of awakening, still think it's blissful, but actually it can be bloody.
It can be pretty horrible.
I think it's more like resilience, and you have that almost like firmness and foundation. You draw on, you have the resources you can then draw on, because funny enough, I had an experience for a while where I was with a Starseed group and we did loads of these group activities.
Yeah.
Like, there was like scrying, astral traveling, and this stuff was all amazing, but it did highlight one issue in myself.
Yeah.
That I started to build up the resilience, the power within me, and it made me realize you can do all these amazing things, but actually it's kind of meaningless if I don't sort myself out. Like everyone has access to these abilities and degrees, and people have the same issues in these groups as they did in religious or political. You know,
because you're still just a human being.
To give you an example, we're from we're Palladians, or we had a past life and we're better than same everywhere. Really. So it doesn't matter what tribe you're in, if you're not at a certain state of being or lack self-awareness, it's worse because you have these abilities that you lack.
Yeah, but you essentially need to forget all of that, because it's like you're not special.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You there's another esoteric saying, it's like, are you ready to become nobody so that you can become somebody? You know?
Yeah.
That's what I mean about freeing yourself. Freeing yourself from all identifications with anything. Because then you are essence, basically. Because all the layers, all of these lives we live here or in other dimensions, which I definitely believe we do, they're just the story.
Yeah. They're like fragments of us, but they're not us. But I think it's this idea that it seems so much more interesting than us being in the present moment.
Oh yes.
But there's a reason when we go through these experiences, and there's even a reason why for some phase of our existence we might be able to tap into these abilities and others who don't. And each to their individual in terms of why we had the experience, why we don't have it at the moment, and why we may have it or may not have it in the future. It's not that we can't do it, it's just that it's not part of our path at this point, but it's there to show us something. To make us, it's a revelation.
It's part of our story, and like this is when my mind goes to the furthest like corners of the universe. It's like, well, but why? Why? Like, if we're just consciousness, why all of this? You know? Well, I think it's something as corny as love.
I mean, I don't think it's that corny. I mean, love, I guess, like...
Not in a romantic sense, but...
The vibe, you know.
Yeah, I think, why all of this? Why all those stories? Why all this? For me, it's love. It's like, we are learning love.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Love in the grand sense, in terms of being the sort of the understanding or knowing others as we know ourselves, or feeling others. It's that very like divine love.
So that was my awakening. But as you said, sometimes it's brutal, because now I'm like, sometimes like, just go away. Just I don't wanna see what I see. I don't wanna know what I know. I just wanna go back to being numb.
Well, just you don't want the awareness.
No.
It's easy to, when we're caught up in things in the world, it's easy to actually ignore that and the intuition and stuff. It can be, but then something comes back to remind you.
Always.
So I was curious, because as you were talking, but even before that, I always thought that a lot of what you had to say was symbolic of, especially the vases you produce.
Yeah.
Vases.
Mhm.
There's tons of like mythology in it, and tons
Yeah.
of symbolism. I'm kind of looking at what you just put on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can take it out if you want to show it.
Yeah, let's
I can
do some
that.
help.
No, it's all right. I'm used to it. I'm gonna put it on this one here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Let's, tell me a bit more about it.
Well, so basically what I do, we were talking about the consciousness before. That consciousness for me has a language,
Yeah.
you know, and that language is not words. The language is symbols, images, colors, sounds and smells and all of that. But it's senses, you know.
Yeah.
I can't play music, but I can paint and I can make forms, and that's basically what I do. And it's almost like I'm telling a story through symbols. So when I started this work, I started creating this database of little drawings and what they meant.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a simple database of my language. So yeah, they all kind of mean things, you know. You can read like what does the hand mean, what does the thread mean, what does the needle mean, what does the scissor mean, the bird, and then you will, you know, get a story.
Yeah.
But also I like people to just read into it themselves, because